Why Andrew Tate has influence over men, and one potential solution. Before I start, I just want to say that when I refer to men and women in this video, I do recognize that transgendered men are men too, and transgendered women are women too. I also need to state that I do not condone or excuse supporting someone as misogynistic as Tate, but will explain without excusing why some men succumb to Andrew Tate's influence, which by the way, doesn't and never did include me. Any man that supports or supported Andrew messed up, regardless of what they were going through. Of course, some didn't go through anything and just are misogynistic. He actually states the reason outrightly.
I don't think most women can actually genuinely understand how lonely the majority of men are. And you need to truly understand, if you're Joe Schmo, average in nearly every way, in Starbucks working, you ain't getting a DM ever.
Many men are lonely and feel isolated from women, and he preys on the loneliness. He paints all women out to be that superficial type, to whom anyone who isn't a 6 foot plus, 6-figure earning supermodel probably is actually invisible. Guys, that is not the case. Most women are not like that. The problem is that you're much more likely to run into the superficial type in common social settings, for reasons I'll discuss, as well as the solution. However, this isn't exclusive to men, as I'm sure there are plenty of women who feel lonely and isolated from good men. So I suppose we can just call the problem romantic loneliness. Whilst I never succumbed to resonating with this human trash bag on any level, I can say there have been times that I felt isolated from women. So what specifically is the problem? Right out of the gate, one problem is that there are very few good places or events where men and women can talk to each other, which creates a divide between men and women, which Andrew Tate is preying upon from the male side. Listen to me now. Bars and clubs are actually some of, if not the worst places for men and women to actually talk. And I'm sure you're thinking, but you see people pulling each other every single time you go to a club. What is this guy even talking about? Well, put it this way. Say in a club, a boy and girl start talking. It's so loud and crowded, they'd be lucky AF to hear each other at all. And the conversation is limited at best and non-existent at worst, where they're just yelling in each other's ears. Yeah, real romantic. I can't lie, most of the times when I've chatted up girls in a club, I was just pretending to actually hear what they had to say, because I didn't hear a damn thing. I've got to be real with all of you. Some guys can do it on minimal conversation, but many, including myself, find it hard, and that's not a shortcoming whatsoever, because conversation is a beautiful and rizzy thing, and that ties back into the original problem. There are very few places where men and women that don't know each other can actually talk to each other. Plus, bars play music loud as hell so that it takes more effort to converse, which drives people to drink more. It's a well-established business tactic. Thanks, bars and clubs. Adding to this, most of, if not all women, don't feel 100% safe in settings such as bars and clubs because of some of their experiences with men in the past, which has only gotten worse with Andrew Tate. The result is that you'll get a lower female to male ratio in places like bars and clubs, which are already bad places to connect to the people that attract you, for the reasons I discussed earlier, and women will completely understandably have their guards up. Young men might not have seen it for themselves the first time firsthand, and the likelihood is, unfortunately, they eventually will. The first time I saw it was in a club when I was about 23, where a man literally pushed his girlfriend to the ground in front of everybody, in the middle of the club. Yeah, that happened. Imagine what kind of stuff happened secretly. 2 years ago, there was actually an injection spiking epidemic in clubs. Just deplorable. On top of that, I'll tell you a story about someone I attended a club night with. He shared vapes with a girl when the music was playing and the lights were low, only to find at the end of the night that when he saw her properly, she had cold sores on her lips. Before you get with someone in a club, how likely are you to see that beforehand? Adding to that, big cities can be cold as hell socially. I know London is. So nice, interesting women that you can actually connect with mentally and/or emotionally are even less likely to show up at bars and clubs, since on top of having to worry about their safety, the social atmosphere just isn't always welcoming. The result is a low female to male ratio with even fewer nice, approachable women, and there are more of those superficial type ones who make 95% of the guys or so who don't meet the criteria feel alienated and invisible, which Andrew Tate preys upon. By the way, when I say invisible, I mean that literally. I am not in any way implying that women are obliged to reciprocate on men's advances or anything to the effect of women being superficial if they don't give guys the responses they wanted. 93% of communication is non-verbal, so even if no talking happens, exuding at least amicable vibes and body language, and not cold, indifferent, or unfriendly vibes and body language to people is basic politeness and goes a very long way. And that applies from anybody to anybody. man to man, man to woman, woman to man, woman to woman. So, what's the solution? How can good women and good men get to talk more? Daytime meetup events. Meetup.com is great for that in case you're not aware of it. So why daytime instead of nighttime? Well, I can speak from experience when I say the atmosphere in daytime events was much nicer with people talking much more openly and the male to female ratio was much more even. And it makes sense. Women can feel safer and scumbag men are less likely to show up when the sun is up. But to the guys who are going to use this new information to go out and meet women, which is totally fair, do not bring that playboy wannabe type mentality and don't go there just to try and pull. You will drag the entire vibe down with you. Go with the intention of talking and connecting, and if you get a number or anything more, it's an added bonus. If you go and just be chill and don't force anything, you'll find plenty of women to whom you're not invisible. Here's an experience I can speak in depth about. I found this meetup in London called 20 to 30's Work-Life Balancer, which takes place on Friday nights, and it's simply a place and an event where people can meet up and chat and socialize like nothing else really to it. It's simply that. In theory, that would sound great, and these meetups are good, but they're not the magic bullet to the problem of men and women having difficulty meeting. So the first one I went to was in January of this year. It was crowded, it was still quite difficult to hear people talk, and the female to male ratio was pretty damn low. So basically, it was falling into all the same traps and having the same weaknesses as clubs do, even though the whole point of going is to have the conversations that you wouldn't get in clubs. It's most likely for the reasons we discussed above, but do not get me wrong. The events were very safe and very well regulated. Didn't want to give you the wrong idea. Anyway, so for every approachable girl there was always a guy sliding in and chatting to her, and in multiple cases there were multiple guys talking to her at once. And this was a consistent theme, albeit to varying extents. It's interesting, I spoke to one girl on the first night, and as she was leaving, I said to her, "Hey, it was nice meeting you. Are you going to come to another one?" She said, "Nah, not really." And yeah, I never saw her again. One time recently, I bought a very good friend of mine who's the best looking guy I know and is very successful with women. I thought he'd walk in and pull left, right and center, and while he did manage to get a girl's number, he was on edge a lot of the night, and he actually told me that the thick social atmosphere was very overwhelming for him. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed the vast majority of these events and I will go again because they're fun and I can talk to loads of people, but for meeting women specifically, these events are okay at best. Which begs the question, why didn't it work in practice? The male to female ratio in London is very even, and if anything, it's slightly higher on the female side. So that should have worked. Why didn't it? Well, the reasons are, as we discussed, about safety and the dynamics that follow, and to enforce that, I will tell you what did work. The organizers also host events on Sunday afternoons, and I recently started going, and let me tell you, they are so much better. The social atmosphere was much nicer, and the male to female ratio was considerably more even, and better conversations were had. They had their own Nintendo Wii's as a throwback, they set up Just Dance, Mario Kart, Wii Sports, and lots of other fun little things, and it was just a blast. Everyone was chill, and none of the guys were going out their way to pull. It was just everyone having pure Sunday fun day fun. These events were just perfect. Daytime meetup events are a step in the right direction for sure. Andrew Tate has created a vicious cycle. He emboldens misogyny, endangers women, creates a divide between women and good men, preys upon the lonely men who end up supporting him, and he ends up perpetuating that vicious cycle. What I described about daytime meetups is just one potential solution to the problems that male-female connectivity faces, but guys, Andrew Tate is not one of them. If you support Andrew Tate right now, it's not too late to do the right thing and withdraw your support and discourage others from doing the same. Thank you for listening and have a lovely day.